Way back in episode 49, we interviewed Elizabeth Silver, a surface pattern designer and educator who is the creator of a fantastic course called Start Your Surface Pattern Business. What we love about Elizabeth is her frank, no fluff business advice.
And this week, she's back to talk to us about reasons you might not be getting your art in front of potential paying clients.
Hi, this is Laura Lee Griffin.
And this is Nikki May with the Startist Society, inspiring you to stop getting in your own way and start building an art biz and life that you love.
We are artists who believe strongly in the power of community, accountability, following your intuition, taking small, actionable steps, and breaking down the barriers of fear and procrastination that keep you stuck.
Follow along with us on our creative business journey as we encourage you on yours.
Elizabeth, welcome to the Startist Society. We're so excited to chat with you again.
I'm so happy to be back. Thank you for having me.
So, Elizabeth, we've already heard a lot about your Startist story and career in episode 49, but for those who either haven't listened to that episode or maybe just need a little bit of a refresher, can you share a bit about yourself and your business just to get us started?
Yeah, definitely. I am a professional surface pattern designer and an educator, and I have been designing for 20 years at this point, which is way too long. And I started my career working in-house for home textile companies and apparel companies in New York City. I did that for about 10 years. And then for the last decade, I have been a solo business, and I have been creating for freelance clients and for licensing partners, creating all types of art for product. And mostly I do work in the gift and stationery realm, but I've designed for a lot of different products. And so through all of this industry experience I've had, I have started sharing that information and talking about what it's really like. I think my point of view from having worked in-house is really valuable in the online space because lots of people are freelancers and, licensed artists, and they've never worked in-house. So I love to give that feedback as well. And now I share all that through YouTube and courses and my blog.
And we love your YouTube channel and we love everything you put out. So we're super excited to have you back today.
Thanks so much, because I love your podcast. So
well,
you guys, we have a very similar, let's just get it vibe.
Yes.
So that's why we work well together.
We have a mutual appreciation society here.
For sure. So let's get into the topic that we're here to talk about today. There are so many excuses that we make up, and some reasons are real and some are imagined about why we're not getting our stuff seen by people. So let's hear what you have to say on the topic.
Yeah, definitely. I love this topic because, really the best way to start finding paying clients to get your artwork on products, whether it's your surface pattern designs, whether it's your illustrations, whether it's your hand lettering, the best way to get your art on products is to try to connect directly with people who need your art directors, creative directors, companies that manufacture goods. But so many of us are really scared about that first step, right? We work on our portfolios.
It's so overwhelming. It's like, okay, I've been making work. Now what the hell do I do with it? How do I find people? Where do I go?
I agree. It is very overwhelming. So it's like, I know so many of us are working on our portfolios. Yeah, just like you said, we're working on art. We're figuring out all the programs. We're working on how to make more marketable art. We're doing, we're building things up, and then it's not going anywhere because we're not putting it out there directly in front of art directors. So first of all, I'm here to encourage everyone to start making those first steps. But I wanted to talk about some of the reasons that we might be holding back. And I think the thing that I hear in the most general sense is, I don't feel ready yet. I'm not ready yet.
Right.
But I think we need to dive in when we hear that, or when we say that to ourselves. I think we need to dive in a little deeper of like, what is the thing you don't feel ready about? It's not just a general sense. It's like, what isn't ready? What part isn't ready? And I think the first thing that most artists are concerned about is their artwork. Their artwork's not good enough.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't think they have enough designs to show things off. Maybe they, there are other reasons that maybe they're not feeling that their art is good enough.
Maybe they're not sure that their style is cohesive enough.
Yeah, or they might be worried about, exactly, a signature style, or having having collections in their portfolio, or having, as I said, enough designs. I hear that a lot. I don't have enough designs. And so, I mean, look, that's a valid concern to think that your work might not be good enough. But I want to encourage everyone to try to get to the bottom of that. I would say when we talk about not having enough designs, that is not, it really depends on what your goal is. Are you trying to freelance with your artwork? Are you trying to license your artwork? Are you trying to sell your artwork outright? Because in some of those cases, you might need a slightly larger portfolio, but for something like freelancing, for example, you really just need a portfolio that can show off your skill set. You don't need to have a million pieces. If you're trying to sell your work, maybe you need to have more pieces. If you're going to a trade show, yes, you probably want to have a lot of pieces. But if you're emailing an art director to say, I have this artwork and I'm hoping to work with your company, you don't need to have a ton of pieces. You just need to have work that shows your skills and is marketable.
Right. So you're saying in a case of freelancing, you're showing you have the skill set. So if they come back to you and give you prompts of here's, a briefing, right? A brief of this is what I need. They know that you could actually create that artwork.
Exactly. So that's what I mean. I do a lot of freelance work, and my portfolio is really about showing I know how to create the art that they might at some point look for. So when they come to me, they give me, okay, we're going to use these colors. We're going to do this type of work. We want it to look, maybe they see something on my website that they say like, oh, we love this style. So maybe do it in this type of style. But what we're going to be doing is Christmas cookies, and we're going to have a phrase that says, baking spirits bright or whatever, something like that. And then I'm creating something new for them. So my portfolio only needs to reflect that I know how to letter or potentially draw something like a Christmas cookie, right?
I know how to eat cookies.
But I don't have to have 10 Christmas cookie designs in my portfolio, right? I have to be able to show. So I think that, it really depends on what your goal is, but in order to show off that you have a skill set, you don't need that many designs. I think if you have 10 strong designs, that you can start reaching out to people, because it also, even if your goal is licensing or even buyouts or anything else, you need to start making connections. Most deals don't happen on a first cold pitch email. So you start to make a connection, you start to show off what you can do, and then you follow up in 3 months with more artwork. And then you follow up in another 3 months with more artwork after that. So you're really just, making yourself known and starting to breed familiarity with someone new.
Develop new relationships, make connections.
Yeah, exactly.
And everybody has to start somewhere. So even if you've never had any kind of freelance work, licensing, this is your first time reaching out to someone. If you have, a solid 10 pieces that you can show them, then that's great. Get them out there.
And the advice that everybody in every business gives is you have to start before you feel ready.
Exactly.
If you wait until you feel ready, you're never going to do anything. You have to get those first rejections under your belt too.
Yes.
Well, Nikki, we wouldn't have started this podcast if we waited until we were ready.
Oh my gosh. We're still not ready.
Exactly. That's the thing. The best way. And you know what I also say to people who feel like they might not have enough in their portfolio is that 2 skill sets you need for having a career, an independent design career, is being able to pitch yourself and make connections and being able to make the art. So you can be building your pitching skills while you build your art portfolio. So when I started my course, Start Your Surface Pattern Business in 2020, I started looking back at all my emails from when I had just left working full time in 2012 and 2013.
Yeah.
My emails were bad, y'all. Like they were really, really bad. I actually have a part in Start Your Surface Pattern Business that I go through one of my 2013 emails and I basically am like, nope, shouldn't have done that. Nope, this would be better this way. Nope, this is da-da-da. I like self-edit myself. So guess what? Like if I hadn't done it, like it's okay. It's okay. Like, right? You get better. You practice, you get better. You find a better way and it's okay.
By the way, the title of this episode is going to be My Emails Were Bad, Y'all.
That's totally fair. It's totally fair. I deserve it because they really were. They were long and like they sounded like kind of professional and stuff, but like, ooh, no one wanted to read all that.
Yeah. Art directors don't have a ton of time, right? So they don't need 3 paragraphs about why they should hire you.
Exactly. And your whole life story and like why you're, no. I mean, I had like credentials because I had worked in house, but I was trying to tell them all of them. It's like, no one cares. Like it's about your artwork. And so that leads us to another point, which might be holding me back, which is the idea of being worried about sounding like an amateur or not knowing how to interact professionally. Maybe not knowing how to present your work professionally, basically feeling like you're not, in any sort of professional manner in order to put your work out there.
And we actually just released an episode a little while back on that topic. I think, Nikki, was it episode 112?
112, presenting your work professionally.
Presenting your work professionally. So that's a good place to start and take a listen.
Awesome. Yeah. If you need help on that.
But for sure, nobody is super, super professional their first time out of the gate. You learn from it. And, there's tons of resources out there, our podcast, your course, all kinds of things that can help you. But again, you have to take that first step. And, your first attempt is not going to be the most professional, but you'll learn what works from it and what doesn't.
I agree. And I also think, remember that art directors and creative directors, we hold these people because they have the power to give us a job. We hold these people very in high regard. I think people are very like sort of scared, but PS, like they're just people and we're trying to relate to people. So if you're worried about, you don't have to have like a bunch of lingo and a bunch of, professional. What is professional? It's be kind, be respectful, and be brief, as we just talked about. Like it doesn't need to be long. It's really about your artwork. It's not about, some long diatribe about that uses a bunch of industry buzzwords. So really, that's all you need to know in order to be able to move forward.
The people that you're reaching out to are also people that were afraid to get started. And they're probably concerned about how professional they sound too.
Yes. And it's a whole wide range of people too, because I mean, I get responses and I have different clients and I've had responses and some people, are super on point and have everything all together. And some people you can tell are flying by the seat of their pants. And that's okay because we all are too at some point. Sometimes we have it all together and sometimes we're just like dashing off an email through our iPhone and just hoping it works, So we get it, everyone's just out here trying to do their best. So.
And Elizabeth, another thing I'm thinking about is that I've faced even myself is, okay, I've sent something out to someone and it's crickets and there's no response. And then it's like, they just don't want to hear from me.
Or I wasn't professional enough.
Right. Yeah, that's the thing. We make up stories to make ourselves feel bad. Like
So we're so good at that.
Yeah, that's sort of how the human brain works. It's kind of a bummer, but it is true. I always joke, like, what if it was the other way? Like, what if we were imagining the absolute best case scenario always? Like, they haven't reached out because they are mid-flight headed directly to my house to show up with a bouquet of balloons to present me with a job. Like, it's a sweepstakes winner. Like, that's the reason, not because it was the worst pitch they've ever seen and they've already like printed it and burned it or something, you know. Like, the thing is, we do make up these stories. The reality is that art directors are very busy. First of all, maybe they didn't even see the email at all because maybe it didn't go to the right, you know, email address, or that person no longer works there anymore, or whatever. Maybe they did see it, they wanted to respond, then they got called into a meeting, blah, blah, blah. We all know how our inboxes go. Or maybe it just wasn't the right fit at that moment and they don't have time to individually reach out and respond. So that is why follow-up is so key. Mm-hmm. You have to continue to follow up until they say, don't ever contact me again, which they probably never will.
Until they block you.
But until they say, like, your art is really not a fit, like, it's not, you know, we never work with outside artists or whatever the situation is, until you get a real, like, this is never going to work type thing, you keep sending work.
Until you get that restraining order.
Exactly. If they don't show up with balloons, then you might know that. So follow-up is everything. So yeah, the crickets can definitely be a disappointment because I feel like it is a big hill to climb to get ready to pitch your work, to get that, you know, write that email and get that artwork, you know, set up and onto, you know, JPEGs or however you're going to present it. And then to like finally get the courage and push send. And we kind of feel like we got the top of the hill, but the truth is like, oh, sorry, you have to keep going. You have to follow up in a few months, you know, follow up in a couple weeks and then follow up in a couple months with new artwork and just keep going. So
there's a couple of artists and different people out there that I've heard of who've done little experiments about, let's see if I can reach 100 rejection letters. And that's an interesting way to turn it around so that you're not afraid of the rejection. You're like, okay, let's go get one more rejection, because you get enough rejections, you're going to get somebody accepting it. So there's just kind of mindset tricks to play on yourself.
I love that. I absolutely love that. Yeah, I've heard of those type of things too. And I know that fear of rejection is a big reason why we don't put our work out there, of course.
It's huge.
But
it's huge.
I have to say, like, if that's something that's holding you back, I mean, if you don't think you can work through it, then this might not be the industry for you.
Yeah.
Right? We hear this about aspiring actors as well, right? About all the auditions they have to go on and all the rejection, right? There are just some industries that require a lot of rejection. And this is one of them, okay? Yeah. We put out our work and we put it out again and we put it out again. If you can't deal with that, real talk here, you're probably, you know, this might not be for you because you really do. It's just part of the industry. But one thing I will say to encourage people is that I know from having worked in-house, I've been in these meetings before, the rejections are never personal. And most of the time, they're really not even about the quality of the artwork. I have seen artwork get taken off, get rejected, get moved from, like, you know, oh, we're going to put this in, then taking it off the line, basically. I've seen it for the most inane reasons. It's all about, you know, marketing and the buyers, and it could just be a color thing, or it could be that they already have that theme, or that theme didn't sell well last season, so therefore
your work is too similar to somebody they're already
representing. Yeah, exactly. There's 100 reasons, and they're all like business decisions. They're not like, oh, that, you know, unicorn that you drew looks a little wonky, so no thanks. Like it's like, no, we have two other unicorns or whatever, you know, we don't do juvenile.
And somebody else is going to love your wonky unicorn.
Exactly. Wonky's hot. So
on the flip side of that fear of rejection is sometimes people are afraid of success. They're afraid they'll be accepted. And then what?
That is true. So I remember one time in Start Your Surface Pattern Business, I came in I was like all hyped up about, this was like for an office hour. So I do monthly office hours where people, we do these calls, and I came all hyped up to like basically shut down everyone's like fears. So I was like, guys, what are you worried about getting your work out there? Da, 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 da. And I'm expecting some of the things we're talking about. And I was like all ready for them. And someone was like, I guess what I'm really afraid of is that someone's going to say yes. And I'm going to have to do this job. Like, then I'm going to have to be like freelancing or licensing my work. And then what? I don't know what to do.
Well, there's pressure. There's pressure there. If you get rejected, then you don't actually have to come up with something great. You can just hide behind that rejection. But if they accept it, then you have to actually make it.
Yes, exactly. So that's totally valid. Like, I do get that. But I mean, that's like, okay, so you're not going to work then? Like, because the whole point is that you're trying to, is this the career that you're interested in? Because you're going to have to get some yeses at some point. So we cannot let that stop us. Because the best experience, no matter what, like you can take courses, you can listen to podcasts, you can do YouTube, and it doesn't matter. The best experience is just doing it and trying it out. And so no matter how much information you might have on how to do a creative brief or how to work with a licensing partner or any information that you might have talking to your artist friends who have done it before, it's going to be different for every client and everything. I myself, like I've worked with lots of different clients and I still have to ask a million questions when I start with a new client. And it's not because I don't know what I'm doing. It's because every client does things slightly differently. And yes, there are some overlaps, but sometimes there's not. So it's okay to ask questions and just get to the bottom of what the information that you need in order to design and do the project. When you get those yeses. So knowing that and knowing that there's no secret to it hopefully gives people some peace of mind.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely understandable that that's a fear. And I mean, I felt that myself when I've gone after something huge and then I got it and I'm like, oh my God, now I have to actually follow through on this.
Like an airport commission?
Yeah. Like when you do a 70-foot long piece that's going to be in an airport. Yeah.
Wow.
But there's always somebody you can ask. And if you're too afraid to ask the client or the art director, there's always ask Elizabeth, ask us. There's always somebody that can give you that little boost of confidence.
Yes, that's why community is so important.
And another thing though is in order to get a job, you've got to reach out to the right person. And when you're getting started, you kind of don't even know how to do that. So how do I find that art director? How do I find that person to connect to even send the email? I think that's another thing that stops people.
Well, you take a course that's called Start Your Surface Pattern Business.
Yes. That will set you right up. Yes, certainly. And that's the thing. There's so many resources out there, right? Like that's an excuse for 1992, but like
pre-internet.
Yeah. In 2024 on the internet, you can find the answer to anything, right? I could be drywalling my house right now if I wanted to, because that is how much information is out there. And I've never done that once, but I can do it because of the internet.
I could build a school bus.
Exactly.
I mean, I didn't, but I designed it.
It could happen. So that's the thing. The information is out there. I mean, I certainly have on my YouTube, I have information about that. You guys, I'm sure, have talked about that on various podcasts, and definitely, Start Your Surface Pattern Business dives into that deeply and where to find. But, it's like looking for companies that create artwork that you feel like is a match with what your art is, and then diving into finding who those art directors and creative directors are. And that's also a thing you can do on the internet. So,
and we probably have 10 or 15 episodes that talk about just that topic, interviews with different people. Yeah.
Sometimes people come to me with these questions that I'm like, have you ever heard of Google? Because like, what? Like I get it. But sometimes I'm like, really? You could have typed that same thing into Google and gotten way more information than you're going to get out of me in my DMs right now. Like,
although I will say it's nice to take a course when all the information is in one place so that you don't have to like search YouTube.
For sure. Exactly. Which is, yes, exactly. That's the benefit. That's the thing. Like you can find anything on YouTube, but it is nice to have that step-by-step, those clear, steps to go through. And, when we talk about being worried of, looking like an amateur or not having things ready, in my course, we talk about building a website first before we start pitching, because you do want to legitimize your business by having a website, by having some social media. Even if you're not a huge fan of social media, having an Instagram that has your art on it rather than just your cat is really going to make a difference.
But my cat's really cute.
I know. You're going to have to put that on your other Instagram, okay?
My bus is on my other Instagram.
Oh, dang.
All right. So let's talk a little bit more about social media, Elizabeth. So I think a lot of people see it as a double-edged sword a bit. We all have kind of a love-hate relationship with Instagram. A lot of people are scared now of putting their artwork out there and having it stolen, like, oh, if my idea is stolen or my artwork's going to get stolen, somebody's going to take it and, make it high res and use it on something. And all of a sudden it's on Shein or one of these websites on clothes, that they'd never had a license for. Right. So how would you respond to that?
Well, yeah, I definitely get this question all the time too. And I think, it's tricky because we do hear those stories a lot. And the good news is, as artists, we pass those stories along and and sometimes use, we see artists sometimes using social media to leverage the fact that their work has been taken and have people, approach those companies and get it taken down as best they can and all that. But the truth is, getting your work out there in all forms, social media, via direct, emails, in any way that you can, is not a bad thing. And if your work is hidden in a folder on your hard drive, no one's seeing it. No one knows that you're a designer. No one knows that you provide this service and you have this talent. So, I'm really just all for getting your work out there. Keep it, social media and whatever, and kind of trying to put that fear aside. There are a couple things that you can do to sort of protect yourself. Like you might, of course, none of them are foolproof, but you can, when you show off your work, if it's a pattern, not showing off the full repeat, you can show it on a mock-up. So it's harder to just sort of grab a flat, image. You can make sure that you put your logo or your copyright Elizabeth Silver, your name, along the bottom. Again, obviously none of these things are foolproof. If someone really wants to steal your work, they'll steal your work. But I think that the risk is worth the potential reward of getting your work out there versus hiding it.
Right.
100%.
Now, you had mentioned having a website as one of the first steps that you should do. And I think a lot of people are intimidated by that as well. It's like starting a website. Do I need an email list? Do I have to do all of these things before I pitch my work to sort of show that I'm legitimate? What are your thoughts on that?
I don't think you need an email list. I do think you need a website. And I think that the thing about websites is, again, God bless the internet. It's so much easier now than it was, and technology, because it's so much easier now than it was, 10 years ago, to start a website. And I make it really clear. I know that artists get overwhelmed by the idea of starting a website because we're visual people. And it's like, okay, now I need a logo. Now I need colors. Now I need this whole branding scheme. Now my work isn't good. Basically, the idea of needing a website can spiral you so far that you are, never mind the fact that the website was to get you ready for the pitch, right? You're like, that's your next year of like trying to figure out how to make this work. But I promise that it really doesn't have to be that fancy of a website. In fact, it's probably better that it's not a fancy website, that it's really just about clarity, about making sure you say what services you offer. So not just putting up your work, but also saying, I provide, I do designs for the home decor field, or like I license my work for the gift and stationery categories, saying what you do rather than just putting up the artwork, and making sure you have plenty of calls to action and ways for that people to contact you in order to work with you. But most likely they're not necessarily going to find your website right off the bat, but at least if you send your work to an art director, they can verify that you are an artist by then clicking on your link, and then you can show them more work that you have on your website.
And I think that's great because one of the things with websites too is we're not all SEO experts, right? So it's not like you're going to create a website and magically everybody in the universe and every art director is going to come and say, there's your website and your artwork. Like you have to then pitch it.
If you build it, they will come.
Yes, that is totally what I tell students too, because people are like, will be working and they're scared to push publish basically. And I'm like, no, just push publish. And even if you have typos, obviously try not to have typos, but if you have typos, I've had typos on my website. I've had typos on my front page of my website. Somebody will email me and say, oh, you actually have that spelled wrong. I'll fix it. We're good. It's okay. You can fix. That's the thing. Everything is so easy to change. So I recommend Squarespace. I love Squarespace. After recommending it for years, I'm actually a Squarespace partner now because that's how good I love, how much I love Squarespace. But it's so easy. You can change it yourself. You don't have to be a computer whiz. You don't have to be I had an HTML website when I first started. And I don't know HTML. It was a real slog trying to make it work. I did it myself, but with some help from my husband, who is a little more tech savvy than me. But it was really, really hard. Anytime I wanted to add a button or anything, it was so difficult. Now it is so easy, and it's so easy to just jump on your site and change something really quickly or put new art up or whatever. So It doesn't have to be something that we feel is some permanent testament to who we are as an artist, because my website changes so often and has for the last decade. It's been through so many iterations. It's fine if the first one isn't, pristine.
Yeah, I absolutely love your website now. And you have such great blog entries. There are so many great resources for surface design on Elizabeth's website. So you guys will have to check that out.
Thank you so much.
But I also have to say, if you want some help building your artist website, I happen to know a professional website designer, and her name is me.
Exactly.
So get in touch.
Yes, you should definitely contact Nikki. But if you want the help, but I did feel very special when you guys last time we were on this podcast together, you had looked through my course and you said that you, as a professional web designer, you thought all the advice about building a website was very legit. And I was like, well, look at me.
Well, it's absolutely true. I mean, I do build websites for a living, but I can also say that and I use WordPress, not Squarespace. But if you want to build a website yourself, there is no reason you can't build a beautiful artist website using Squarespace without knowing much of the tech at all. So
yeah,
it's a great way to go.
So one last reason that I sometimes hear from people is this idea of not wanting to bother an art director. Maybe this isn't your first pitch, but maybe it's just this idea of I don't want to send my work in and basically be salesy, trying to show off my work. People have this idea that they're bothering someone who is trying to get through their day, and they're showing up uninvited into someone's inbox, which I understand. But
that's their job.
That's their job. Their job is to find artwork. And if someone shows up in your inbox helping you do your job better, then you should be happy for that person, right? Even if that's not the perfect artwork for what you're looking for, you're really helping them do their job. And I have this one time I went into this whole like metaphor about like, imagine you're trying to make tacos. You're throwing together dinner and you don't have any salsa and someone rings your doorbell with homemade salsa, like in a basket, right? Like, are you mad at that person? You might be a little weirded out. Like, I don't know this person. Why is she at my doorstep? But like, you're probably going to buy the salsa. Like, you know, as long as it looks semi-professional, as long as they have maybe a website that you can also go to.
Homemadesalsa.com.
You are probably going to be cool with that salsa, right? So that's the same concept. Obviously, your art is the salsa, in case you missed it. If you show up and they happen to need, you know, disco ball art because that's what everyone wants right now, or something with bows all over it, you show up in their inbox with something that they're specifically looking for, a theme that they're looking for, a type of style that they're looking for that particular season, then you might just be that salsa that they have to buy.
Yeah, like 8,000 mushrooms.
Right.
Because everybody loves mushrooms.
Exactly.
No, I love that. I love that salsa metaphor. That's great, Elizabeth. So I have one last question for you, and that's sort of around, you know, a bit of a somewhat controversial topic, right? And that is AI. As AI is getting sort of better and better, and even a lot of the software that we utilize to create patterns, for example, Photoshop and even Illustrator now, Adobe Illustrator, have an ability to create patterns in seconds that are vector. So how do you feel that impacts the market and impacts people who are pitching their work?
Great question. Yeah, obviously the AI discussion has been getting louder and louder over the past year and a half. And I've definitely heard this from people of like, is there even a point in being an artist at this point, like her getting started or getting into this field? And the truth is, I can't predict the future.
Oh, well, forget it. What are you doing on our podcast?
My wizard skills are not yet there.
False advertising. Sorry, carry on.
We have to imagine that, you know, the handmade aspect of our work, the human aspect is going to be still an important part as we move forward. You know, when I first started working in-house, working as a staff designer, I worked for a bedding company. And when I started working, we were working on computers. But it was 2003, and it hadn't been that long since they had done things by hand. And so we had, you know, designers who were like, we used to have to paint every colorway, and we used to have to, you know, hand, you know, tracing paper, this I learned in school. So I also studied surface pattern design as a major in college. And when I did it in college, I learned it fully by hand. I mean, we used computers in like senior year, but I did it with tracing paper and gouache and all this stuff. So the people who did it in the industry, you know, they used to do it all by hand, and it took way longer. And now, you know, then computers came along, and obviously much faster. And yeah, probably some people did. Maybe they didn't need, you know, 20 man hours to do a pattern. They only needed 5 man hours because it could do it on a computer. And the same thing is probably going to happen with AI. The thing that took us, you know, all day might take us an hour to perfect, you know, to get, maybe we get a rough draft through AI and are able to sort of perfect it. But at this point, we don't know how that's going to happen. And I think the best we can do is keep creating with our imaginations and keep the human aspect into it and use it as a tool for ourselves, and, you know, understand that some companies, maybe some companies that have low budgets will just go to AI, but I don't want anyone getting paid $20 for a pattern anyways. So if it's between that and getting some sort of AI thing, then okay, but let's hope that the good clients still are going to be looking for something with that hand done touch, even if it's digital work.
Yeah, I mean, we have to remember it's just a tool. And really, we act like AI is brand new, but it's not. I mean, it's been built into the software that we're using forever. This just, it's moving faster, developing faster, and getting better than it ever was. But yeah, like you, when I was in grad school learning surface pattern design, we did repeat patterns by drawing things on paper and cutting it apart and moving it around. And so being able to do that through Illustrator was like, I wasn't afraid that, nobody's going to want me to design something anymore. I'm just like thrilled that I can do it faster and easier so that I can do more work or more of the fun part of it. So it's just a tool, and yeah, some people will use it in a really crappy way.
Yep. And some people will use it like, designers will use it or would-be designers might be using it as an excuse, right? Why bother? Why get started? Because AI is just going to take over. Why do this? Because I'm definitely going to get rejected. Why do this? Because, we have all these excuses that we can kind of roadblocks we can create for ourselves. But there are enough real, genuine roadblocks that we should that we don't
have to make up.
We should try to not worry about the ones that we're making up. Yeah. Exactly.
Yeah. Agreed. And I think there's so much room still in the industry, and so many exciting clients that we could all work with if we can get past some of those roadblocks we were talking about earlier. And there are a few people I just need to reach back out to after I heard crickets. I just got to reach back out. Elizabeth.
It's all about the follow-up, for real.
Yep. Developing those relationships. All right. So, Elizabeth, tell us a little bit more about your course, because I think it's going to a new version of it might be launching soon.
Yes, I'm so excited. So Start Your Surface Pattern Business has been around. I made it originally in early 2020, and my first launch was right when everything was shutting down back then. And thankfully,
which was actually a good time for online courses.
Yeah, it was actually ended up being kind of good. I was like, okay, I guess we're doing this. And my first cohort was like, actually, I'm really glad to be distracted and be doing this course rather than worrying about the fact that we're all home right now. So anyways, so since then, it's been around, and I've, made small updates each year. But this year I am doing like a full re-record, reimagining it, thinking how, basically starting from scratch of like, how would I teach this if I'm starting from scratch? And so I've added in some really interesting sections. One of my favorite things that I've added in is motivated mindset breaks, where we do the kind of thing that you guys do on this podcast, which is like break down these topics that are getting in our way when we're trying to move forward. The marketing that I talk about in the course is important. The strategies, there are plenty of strategies in this course. I give lots of ways to find companies. I give lots of ways to contact companies. I give full templates of, pitching your work. I have all kinds of resources, contracts, all this kind of stuff for getting ready to get your work into the right hands. But the truth is, if you don't believe that you can do this, then unfortunately, you're never going to do it. So I have added those type of things in because it's something that I end up talking about all the time in my office hours, in my live sessions. And so now it's part of the actual curriculum as well. So I'm really excited to be adding that. But basically, I take you through, if you're the type of artist who has all that artwork, but you're not putting it out, the kind of person that we talked about at the beginning of this, because you're like not sure, you're not ready, you don't know how to do it. I'm going to get you set up with, getting your social media and your websites ready, getting, finding some community, finding those potential clients, and then reaching out to them, hopefully finding some paid work. So that class is going to be, the new version of the class is going to be launching open for enrollment April 3rd. So I'm really excited about that.
Woohoo. And what I love about your teaching style and all the information you share, Elizabeth, is that you are so generous, and also you're to the point, and you provide a lot of value without a ton of fluff. And I'm just saying this out loud because I've taken some courses before that were like 90% fluff and 10% meat.
Yeah.
and that's frustrating, right?
Right.
And whereas I think you provide a lot of value. So it's terrific.
I appreciate that. That's why it's been hard for me to add some of these mindset things, because I know some people can feel like it's fluff, but I do just keep seeing students struggling with the same thing. Because my original versions, were very much like full strategy, full like step by step.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, now let's do this. Now let's do this. Yep. Okay, next thing you need to do is search here and do this. But I kept seeing students struggling with the mindset stuff. So if you're one of those people who is like, I got this, I just need the how-to, then you can cruise right through the how-tos. But if you need to take some like slight detours and get a little pep talk, I'm there for that too. So that's what 2024 is going to bring to Start Your Surface Pattern business.
But let's be honest, the mental aspect of this is half the battle, right?
It sure is.
Yeah.
I've always felt it's that important. It's just that, yeah, I am very action oriented in my own self. So I teach in a very action oriented way of like, okay, here's your next step. But, I know that mindset is critical. So it's, as I said, it's something that I always wove into sort of the live parts of it. But now I want it to be part that everyone can reference.
That's awesome.
Yeah. And we totally get that, because that's what our podcast is about. It's 50% like really specific tactical advice, 50% mindset, because we all need both of it.
Exactly.
So, Elizabeth, where can our listeners connect with you online?
Well, you can find me at elizabethsilver.com, and I'm on Instagram at esilverdesign.
And for your new course, what is the website for that if people are interested and want to check it out?
They can check it out at elizabethsilver.com/start.
Or you can wait until we share our affiliate link.
Yes, exactly. Or check out the description in the podcast for Nikki and Laura's link, because that will work just as well.
Excellent. Elizabeth, thank you so much for coming back and talking to us again. We always enjoy talking to you.
Thank you guys for having me. It's been so fun to see you. And, like I said, we always kind of align on some of these things. So it's been great to talk through some of this mindset stuff with you guys.
I love it. Thanks so much for coming. And we always have so much fun.
Yay.
To learn more about Elizabeth and read today's show notes, go to startistsociety.com/getting-seen.
If you've enjoyed today's episode, we'd love for you to share it with a friend. Sharing helps us reach more Startists like you and keeps us inspired to create new episodes.
Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.